in this particular problem, we have two shapes that are similar. We have this first shape here, and then we have this second shape here. Notice I wrote new and old. So this first one, it was stated first in a problem, so it's going to be our new shape. And this one was stated second, it's going to be our old shape. Now I do mark it new and old because it helps me set up my proportion when I'm trying to determine what the scale factor is. Now to figure out the scale factor, you don't even have to set up an entire equation. We will do that to solve for x eventually. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to find two sides. In other words, they're similar to each other. They have a same relevant location. And I do need sides with a number on it. And so for instance, I could look right here. And so notice I got A, B, C, D. And then here we got P, Q, R, S. And so what I like to do is I like to kind of look at the direction things are going. And the shape A, B, C, D is congruent to P, Q, R, S. Now notice the first thing that we're starting with is the A. I like to always just kind of circle it. The first one we're starting with here is going to be the P. And notice when we go around the shape to the right and then up and so on. Same thing here. We go around the shape, up and so on. Now the reason I do this and I highlight kind of the direction of things is because I want to find similar sides. So I realize that AB, it's touching my right angle. And I know that P is touching my right angle. So PQ crosses right across. These two sides have a relationship, right? They're in the same relative location. And so they represent the same side of a shape that has just undergone a reduction, right? It went from a bigger shape to a smaller shape and they're similar. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to figure out like how much did it reduce by? How much did it get smaller by? And that's what we call scale factor. So I'm going to take my new value. You always want to do the new value when you're finding scale factor over the old value. And this will be equal to the scale factor. So if I go ahead and put that in my calculator to see what ratio I get, I'm going to have 25 over the old, which is 45. And what it's equal to is going to be my scale factor. So I'll get my calculator right quick, and we'll do 25 over 45. I typically like to keep these a fraction. I don't like dealing with decimals unless I have to when it comes to scale factor. So I'm going to put it in my fraction bar by using the alpha y equal function. And I have 25 over 45, and it gives me 5 over 9. So 5 over 9 is our scale factor. All right, so the first question, we can answer that very easily. What is the scale factor? The scale factor is 5 over 9. Now the next question says, find the measure of R. So we're going to look at angle R, and we're going to highlight it real quick. So I want to find the measurement of R. And since we know it was stated that this is a similar polygon, what I want to do is just find the location of R on my new figure, right? The one that went through a reduction in size. So for instance, I'm looking at it right here, and notice P is where we start, we go to Q, we go to R. So I'm moving to the right one time, then up one time. So right here from A, right, up. Now you might have also been able to tell by that design, right? Because it kind of slants up a little bit. Now since these are similar, while the sides are proportional, the angles will be exactly the same. They'll be congruent. So if C was 82 degrees, then it means R must also be 82 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and go down here, and it says find the measure of R. The measure of R is equal to 82 degrees. Next it says find QR. Now this is where we're going to actually set up a proportion. So I'm going to come back over here, and we want to find QR. So I'm going to highlight the side that we're trying to locate. So Q to R is right here. Notice it's also identified by the letter of X, because that's what we're solving for. So if I want to find that same side on this other shape that's similar, I'm going to find that it's similar to CB. That has a value of 30. And now we're going to use these values to go ahead and set up our proportion. Now when I do that, I'm going to have a fractional value, right, is equal to another fractional value. Now notice we already had AB and PQ highlighted because we used that earlier to find the scale factor. I'm going to use those values again because that's what I need to do to incorporate my scale factor into this problem. So now what I like to do is I like to go ahead and write my new values in the numerator, and my old figure, the one that I've labeled my old figures, values in the denominator. And so I notice that here, if I go to my new figure, right, I have 25 and 30. That's side AB and side CB. So I'm going to write that. So I got 25 and then 30. And now I want to go ahead and put those same values, but for the old shape, in the same order. In other words, this 25 was section AB of the new shape, and so it's going to be section PQ of the old one. So under 25, I'll put 45. And then under 30, which is this side right here of the new shape, I'll go ahead and put an X underneath it in the denominator for this side of the old shape. So notice I was careful to go ahead and keep my new values together and my old shape's values together. And then I have them connected with each other, right, depending on their location. The 25 and 45 are both this same side that are proportional to one another, while the 30 and the X are these two sides, right, that are in orange, that were proportional to one another. And now what we're going to do is, just like we did in many other videos, is we're going to cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply that 30 times the 40, and I'm also going to multiply this X times the 25. So I'll start with the 25 and the X because that's real easy. 25 times X is simply going to give me 25X. And that's going to be equal to 45 times 30. Now that's a larger number, so I'm going to get my calculator and put it in there. So I'm going to say 30 times 45, and it gives me 1350. Now from this point, I need to get rid of this coefficient in front of the X, the 25. So I'm going to divide by 25 on both sides. Now I know 25 will go to itself one time. It just simply leaves me with X. And now I'm going to divide 1350 by 25. And it gives me 54. So in this case, on this shape, when it says find QR, QR, which is represented up here by X, is actually equal to 54.